Everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review, and today's review is in association with MarvelousNews.com, your #1 news source for everything Marvel. And today we're going to take a look at Hasbro's new Marvel Superheroes Mashers figures. Now, we're going to actually be looking at several figures in this line, so instead of actually reviewing one particular figure, we're going to kind of take a look at the line as a whole for this review. Now shown here is Iron Man, Captain America, and the Thor figures in the line. And the line is kind of split up into three different assortments that are kind of broken up based on price range. So you've got your very basic figure, like this Captain America. This figure is going to run about $10 at retail. And basically it comes with minimal or no accessories, this level of figure. Cap here comes with his shield, but that's it. Whereas like another figure in this particular assortment is Dr. Doom, and he doesn't really have any accessories. So again, these are the cheapest of the three levels of figures that you can get in this line. And they're pretty basic as far as the figures go. Then you have your next level up, the mid-level deluxe line, I guess you might call it. These figures are going to cost about $15 at retail. These figures basically have a few more accessories than the basic figures. Thor here has his hammer, but then he has some other, like a shooting hammer that's different from his regular hammer that fits on his wrist and everything. Then the final level or type of assortment is, I guess they're calling it the electronic assortment. So these are going to cost you about $20 at retail. These figures have even more accessories, and they have electronic, seems like basically a light up feature. Iron Man, his chest lights up when you push the button. There's a Wolverine figure in this assortment that has like a light up claw as well. I think those are the only two that are released so far in their electronic level, and they have a few more accessories than the other two. So these figures obviously are primarily made for kids in mind. So basically this review, we're going to be keeping that in mind in large part. It says on the packaging these figures are for 4 and up. But let's get these figures open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figures outside of the packaging. Now, as you can notice, these figures are very kind of blocky, have a cartoony kind of look to them. Again, this line's definitely geared towards kids and everything. But I think they're kind of fun looking figures at the same time. Obviously they're no Marvel Legends or anything, but again, for what they're meant to be, I think they're kind of cool. Now, the figures stand, they're all about the same height, and they stand just at about 6 1/4 inches tall. Like Thor's maybe a hair taller with his wings, but for the most part, the figures are all the same scale. Now, some things I've noticed, like I don't really like on Cap's on the Captain America figure, they've kind of messed up the star on his chest. It looks kind of funny, and it's like that on all the figures that I've seen. Other thing with Cap is he comes with a shield, which is pretty cool. Very similar to what we see with like the Marvel Legends and everything. Now in the back, it's got 2 holes and a peg, and so you just stick the peg on his wrists if you want him to hold the shield. Now you can also, he's got these 2 holes on his back, so if you wanted to put the shield on his back, you can. However, unfortunately, because the holes on his back are not in the middle of his back, the shield will sit off to either the left or the right, whichever side you put the hole in, basically. But there's not a hole in the middle of his back, so it won't rest on his back evenly. Now, Cap is part of the basic assortment, so it's the only accessory that he has is his shield. Doctor Doom is another figure in the basic accessory. He comes with no accessories other than like his cape. He's got the removable cape. And again, the capes just fit on the back and plug into these holes on the back. And they're just like a soft rubber. You know, again, very similar to what kind of materials we've seen with capes in the Marvel Legends lines and everything. But I kind of like the look of these figures. You know, again, not comparing it to like a Marvel Legends or something, but I just think they're kind of cool in their own right. And the basic principle, which if you haven't figured out, they're called mashups. So the basic principle is you can basically take your figures apart. They just fit, the parts just fit in these little pegs. They're like ball pegs. The pegs themselves don't come out, and like certain, you know, like you can't pull the upper arm off from the shoulder or the upper legs off at the waist, but you can pull off the lower legs, the lower arms, the heads pop off. You can't pop, basically the midsection of the body you can't pop off, but you can pop off the lower legs and hands on pretty much every figure, and then interchange the parts. Now some, you know, in the back of the packaging for some, they show, parts with Spider-Man, Captain America, and Hulk. I mean, that's kind of silly, but you might get some parts that make sense to interchange. You could put, they have Iron Patriot, so you could, if you wanted your own Cap Iron Patriot, you could intermix those parts. You have in the Iron Man figure, you have this cool Tony Stark head, which I think is really cool. So you can always stick that on your Iron Patriot if you want. Okay, so let's go over articulation on these. Overall, they have actually pretty good articulation. Now, one thing I do want to point out is the joints on these hinges on the legs and the arms at the elbow and the knees are very tight. So getting them to bend up and down, especially when you first open it, is a little tough. You want to be careful. They've loosened up a little bit as I've been using it, but they're very tight, and it seems to be that way on all the figures, so just be wary of that. But for articulation, they've got good up and down movement with the head, so they can look up pretty nicely, and they can look down left and right. Good ball hinge joints at the shoulder, so got good rotation there. Single hinged ball joints at the elbow, but again, these joints are very tough, or tight, but you can get pretty good bending movement there at the elbow. There's no kind of wrist articulation at all. There's no waist articulation at all either, which is a little disappointing. They should at least have like a swivel or something there at the waist, I would think. Ball hinge joints at the legs. I may have said earlier that you couldn't remove the upper legs. Well, obviously you can, and they're on ball joints. Single hinged ball joints at the knee. And again, they're pretty tight at the knee, so getting them to bend can be a little tough at first. No kind of mid boot cut articulation at all, but they do have ankle articulation. Good. You've got the ankle pivot and the up and down movement with the ankle. So that's pretty good. So overall, again, for what they are, for what they're geared for, I think they're kind of cool. I think this is kind of a cool way to introduce your kids to Marvel characters if you wanted to. From a collector standpoint, I even think they have some appeal. I think my feeling is that the basic line, the $10 figures, are kind of worth it. Like, I think the figures are cool enough, and they don't need all the big giant oversized accessories or the electronic light ups. So I like the $10 assortment line. The Captain America, the Doctor Doom, I think Hawkeye's another one in it, and there's a fourth one, I forget that's in that basic assortment. Once you start jacking up the price, like the $15 line, I guess is still okay, but I could really do without all of the the extra accessories that come with Iron Patriot and Thor. I could personally do without. And again, kids would probably like it for a couple minutes until they lose all the little pieces and everything. And then the $20 line, again, more accessories, but I don't really think once you start getting into $20, I don't really think you're necessarily getting your money's worth. So I think the $10 line is definitely a good price point for these figures. I would like to see them, if they're going to continue this line, maybe release some of the like an Iron Man and a Thor in the $10 line. It would be cool. Things like that. That's my review. I hope you enjoy it. As I said, these are basically hitting pretty much all the mass retailers now, so if you want to pick some of these up, you shouldn't have too hard a problem finding them. So until next time, I'll catch you later.